everyone, welcome to 996 The Howl. For the uninitiated, this is an unedited YouTube vlog discussing everything Arizona Coyotes. And today, it's been in the works for a while, but finally managed to get it set up thanks to my friend who's sitting behind me, if you can't see him, playing his Switch. So I just wanted to do a video on what John Chayka has done in his short tenure of just about 3 years as the youngest GM in NHL history and the GM of the Arizona Coyotes, going through so much turbulence and off-ice issues with regards to relocation and ownership. John Chayka in his 3 years has been working under 3 different owners in those 3 years. But finally that's all been solved with a new billionaire owner in Alex Merullo, however you want to pronounce it. Probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's neither here nor there. So let's get into this. I haven't really studied this roster since 2016. Just looking at it now, I just want to throw up. But let's get into it with number, I guess this is all alphabetical order here. Going Mikhail Bodker. Remember when he was demanding like $5 million? And John Chayka said, no way, Jose. Or John Maloney did, sorry. John Maloney said, no way, Jose. Trade him to the Colorado Avalanche. Found his way with a huge contract by the San Jose Sharks. And then underperformed, just massively underperformed on San Jose. And got shipped to the dungeon, the NHL's dungeon, in the Ottawa Senators. So I hope he's having fun there. Kyle Chipchura doesn't play in the NHL anymore. He was like the Coyotes' #1 center for a while, which was funny because he's a fourth-line guy. That just shows you how bad this team was this year. Good Canadian boy, centerman. He was good. He was part of that 2012 run, so respect for him. Number 3, Kevin Connaughton. Big old Kevin, who would have still been on the team, but he got traded about a month ago for Carl Soderberg, which was a great trade by Chayka. But Kevin Connaughton manages to stay on the roster for 3 seasons under John the Monster Chayka. So good for Kevin Connaughton for sticking through so many changes. Not last season, but the season prior, he had 11 goals for a defenseman. And it was just really funny to watch those goals. And he's another Canadian boy. So good for him. Craig Cunningham, who after this season got demoted to the American Hockey League, then had a serious medical issue where he had to have his leg amputated. Just crazy. Craig Cunningham. I don't really remember him on the Coyotes much. I think he was just like a call-up from the AHL. I think it was the Portland Pirates at the time when Chayka took over, not the Tucson Roadrunners. But yeah, Craig Cunningham. I think he's a scout for the Coyotes now after going through that scary injury. And still with the organization, so that's good. Another good old Canadian boy. Klaus Dahlbeck, Swedish defenseman. I doubt he plays in the NHL. I think last I remember Carolina took him on, but I don't remember seeing him in the playoffs last year on Carolina. So I think he's out as well. Swedish D-man. Don't really know. I don't remember much about him. I liked his first name, Klaus. That's good. Laurent Dauphin, who has found his way onto the Coyotes and off the Coyotes and back onto the Coyotes and off the Coyotes once again. But I think officially he's going to never be on the Coyotes again after being traded last trade deadline to the Nashville Predators American Hockey League team. So Laurent Dauphin had like 3 tenures with the Coyotes. I think he got traded to Chicago, and then John Chayka was like, let me take him back. And then he said, no, he's not a good fit. Shipped him away to Nashville. But a good old Canadian boy, another one. Just a fringe NHL guy who got call-ups that season in 2016. We're not really hitting major players yet, just Mikhail Bodker, really. Here we go, Shane Doan, the captain, who he scored 30 goals, I think, after this 2016 season. I think 2017 he scored to 30 goals, or was it this season he scored to 30 goals? I didn't really research that, but he scored 30 goals for like a 38-year-old NHL player. Amazing. And then the next season he faltered hard. I think he only had 7 goals, and then unfortunately he retired. But that was a lot of media attention and how he was retired. A lot of people blaming the young GM and John Chayka for letting go the franchise captain and the most important player in franchise history to the Coyotes, just letting him go over breakfast at a nice restaurant. So he caught some flack for that departure, but he sewed things up with Shane Doan, had his number retired last season, and Shane Doan, he seems happy whenever he talks about the Coyotes. So things are good. They're on good terms again. And it's always good to read this name, Shane Doan. Just, brings a tear to my eye. Here we go. Max Domi, one of my favorite Coyote players who was a casualty in another John Chayka monster trade and getting Alex Galchenyuk, who unfortunately just got traded for Phil Kessel, so not really sure what happened there. So Max Domi gets traded for a player in Alex Galchenyuk after about a season, 2 seasons under John Chayka, 17 and I think no 2016-17 he was on the Coyotes, 17-18 he was on the Coyotes, the 18-19 just season that ended with the Montreal Canadiens. So he had 2 seasons under John Chayka. John Chayka had enough when he only scored 9 goals and 4 of those were empty netters. So that wasn't a good look for Domi. Rick Tocchet threw him on second line center position, which I didn't like in his last season with the Coyotes. So that kind of led to his departure. And then they got in Alex Galchenyuk, who he scored 30 goals prior with the Montreal Canadiens, but with the Coyotes he only scored 18 goals. He led the team. I think he was tied for the team lead in goals. But John Chayka pulls the trigger and trades him for Phil Kessel. We'll see how that turns out, Max Domi, good old Canadian boy. So many Canadians. Jeez. Louis Domingue, he's next up. John Chayka had a rough time with Domingue 2 seasons ago when Antti Ranta fell to an injury at the end of preseason in 17-18, and Louis Domingue was in charge, got the starting role. Good young goalie. That's what you want. You're a young goalie. You want the starting role. You got to prove to the guys that you want to put your stamp in the NHL. And Louis Domingue was given the chance, and he fumbled it hard. He did not win a game for the Coyotes that season. I think it went 0-9. And then John Chayka was like, hey, man, you're not winning games. I got some goalies in the pipeline. I'm going to try them out. There's no room for you, so I'm going to put you in the East Coast Hockey League just to get some practice so you're not sitting down in the press box eating hot dogs. And this good old French-Canadian boy, got pretty upset about that proposition, demanded a trade, and he got his wish granted, got traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning, the best team ever created by mankind. And good thing they got swept in the playoffs last year, so his name's not on a cup. And that's all I'm going to say about Louis Domingue. Next up, Steve Downey, another player who had a rough departure from the Coyotes, went on a Twitter rant after John Chayka didn't sign him. Said the Coyotes were a Mickey Mouse organization or something to that effect. So here we go. A lot of back-to-back. Louis Domingue, Steve Downey, 2 guys who really hated how things ended with the Coyotes. And here we go. Another one. Anthony Duclair, who had another rough departure. Jeez. Another Canadian boy. Anthony Duclair lit it up in his rookie season with Max Domi and the double Ds. I was so excited. I remember crying. I remember this night. I was crying watching a game against the Anaheim Ducks, and Domi and Duclair were just magic on the ice, and I was like, finally, they're going to crawl out the basement. And then, reality sets in, and Anthony Duclair spends the next season in the American Hockey League. He can't score, can't do anything. Everyone hates him. Rick Tocchet doesn't have faith in him. He's terrible defensively, turnover machine. So he gets traded for Richard Panik, and Panik was pretty good for a season and a half for the Coyotes. Fortunately, Richard Panik left in free agency about a month ago, July 1st, so that's it for Richard Panik. But Anthony Duclair, him and Domi, great rookie seasons, really showed a bright future for the team that didn't come true. So just a blemish, another blemish in the Coyotes franchise, but the next player up, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he's still on the team. Here, how many players are we in and he's still on the team? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So the 12th player on this list, he's on the team still. He's made it through all those monster trades by John Chayka. He's a captain of the team. best player on the team, Swedish, good guy. Really a humanitarian on the team. He really learned a lot from Shane Doan, and I really like how the Coyotes gave him the captaincy. And you can tell that OEL, he was a rookie on this team in the 2012 season when they went to the conference final, led by Shane Doan. So I think OEL learned a lot from Shane, and you can see it on and off the ice. He's a good guy, gives to charity, does a lot of fundraisers in the Arizona community. So OEL's a good guy. Stephen Elliott, I have no idea who this is. He had played 6 games that year, so that's why I don't know him. He's a D-man, good old Canadian boy. Yeah, can't say much about Stephen Elliott. I don't even remember him. Tyler Gaudette, another fringe NHLer, AHL call-up for Dave Tippett in those years. Tyler Gaudette, I'm pretty sure the Leafs just signed him in free agency. I think he's going to play on the Marlies this upcoming season, so he's still kicking around. I doubt he'll crack the Leafs lineup, but I mean the Leafs don't have a fourth line centerman. It's Jason Spezza, who's like a walking skeleton. So maybe Tyler Gaudette might get the call up, might do it, might wear the white and blue. Next up, Boyd Gordon, penalty killing machine, face-off machine. Love this guy. Very instrumental in that 2012 playoff run. I remember he's most known for that shift where he blocked like 4 shots in a row, just sacrificing his body. Pure Dave Tippett hockey when the Coyotes were just all about blocking shots and flopping down on the ice to block shots. Great guy on the face-offs. Boyd Gordon, he's a good guy. Good old Canadian boy. Yeah, Gordon was a good Coyotes player. I'll remember him. Alex Grant, no idea who this is either. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points. D-man, good old Canadian boy. I don't know who that is. Nicholas Grossman, I know everyone knows who Nick Grossman is. Huge body presence in front of Mike Smith. Mike Smith used to slap him on the bum every stoppage of play for being such a big man. He was a big man. He was a big shot blocker on the D zone, on the D corps. Nicholas Grossman. I knew him when he was on Philadelphia a lot. I think he had a season or 2 with the Coyotes, but the game was moving too fast, and he was pretty much replaced by Nicholas Hjalmarsson, who's just a way better Nick Grossman, faster, better eyes, better breakup passes, I would say, than Nick Grossman. So Nicholas Hjalmarsson, who is Swedish as well, great replacement for Nicholas Grossman. And Nick Hjalmarsson, it's his last year this year. Last year for the big Swede, big bald forehead, Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Here we go, Martin Hansel, who was traded for a first-round pick at the trade deadline and then has never played hockey ever again. So masterful trade by John Chayka. Yes, it's unfortunate that Hansel had a nagging back injury that has prevented him from playing hockey for the past 2 seasons. He's pretty much never going to play hockey again. He's still owned by the Dallas Stars, who picked him up from free agency and signed him to a 5-year contract for whatever reason. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate that Hansel's not playing hockey ever again, but the fact that John Chayka traded him for a first-round pick, I mean, that's money right there. Dustin Jeffrey, good old Canadian boy. No idea who this is. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. That's probably why. Probably another call-up. Man, Jeffrey, Alex Grant, and Stephen Elliott. No idea who those are. Here we go. Backup goalie, Anders Lindback. I love that name, Anders. He was huge. He was a monster. Made a name for himself for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Coyotes needed a backup for Mike Smith. You got 1 tall goalie. Why not have 2 tall goalies? Anders Lindback, he was all right for a backup. Not a memorable backup. I think Louis Domingue was definitely better than Anders Lindback. But Lindback doesn't play in the NHL anymore. All these guys don't play in the NHL. It's amazing how John Chayka inherited this roster of people who don't play in the NHL anymore and has just flipped them for prospects and picks and players. we'll look at the roster now and see how completely different this roster is in just 3 years. It's masterful. Jordan Martinook, we all know Marty. Unfortunate casualty to another John the Monster Chayka trade. Jordan Martinook was traded to Carolina Hurricanes. He had a great playoff run with the Hurricanes this past summer. Great to see Martinook enjoying his time in Carolina. We traded him for Marcus Kruger, who never played for the Coyotes. And in a couple weeks, John Chayka flips Marcus Kruger for Marian Hossa, who doesn't play hockey, and Vinny Hinostroza and Jordan Osterley, two very pivotal depth guys for the Coyotes. So we flipped Martinook for a fast, speedy, young winger who could put in 15 goals, and a depth defenseman who's learning the system and has a lot of offensive upside. So I'm happy with trading one asset for two assets. You can't lose a trade like that. Here we go. Zbynek McCulloch. Oh, we love Big Z. Big Z McCulloch. A shot blocking tank, masterful defensive hockey. Just got too old for the team. I think he spent the first year, the inaugural season for the Tucson Roadrunners. I think Big Z stayed a whole season in Tucson, really, teaching the defensive corps there how to play defense. And it's good for Z. Good for Z. I miss Z. He was an anchor on that blue line. Next up, we got Connor Murphy, who got traded for the aforementioned Nicholas Hjalmarsson. That was a big trade. I remember being in Chicago at the time, opening up Reddit, and seeing my boy Connor Murphy traded for Nicholas Hjalmarsson. But Connor Murphy hasn't done much on Chicago. I mean, everyone thought that Chicago won that trade because Connor Murphy, 8 years younger than Nicholas Hjalmarsson, but still hasn't been able to crack a top pairing on a Chicago Blackhawks defensive team that they don't have that good defense. I'm sure Connor Murphy could crack the top pairing. I mean, it's Duncan Keith, and then who you got there? I have no idea. Brent Seabrook's overpaid, and you got Gustafsson. He's a good young defenseman for the Blackhawks, but I feel like Connor Murphy should have hit his prime, but he's taking a really long time to hit his prime. And I guess John Chayka sold high on him. You gotta buy low and sell high in the NHL. That's what John Chayka does. Here we go. Sergei Plotnikov. I remember this name, but I swear that's a tough name to remember, man. I think he played one game for the Coyotes. It shows here he has 1 point for the Coyotes. I think Chayka picked him off waivers or something. Here we go. Brad Richardson, good old Canadian boy, still on the team. So this is the third guy. We got Richardson, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. No, he's the second guy on the team. Ekman-Larsson and Brad Richardson. Brad Richardson scored so many goals last year that shouldn't have happened. He's a fourth-line centerman, but man, he was scoring so many goals. Love Brad Richardson. I thought he was going to leave in free agency last summer when the Coyotes acquired Marcus Kruger. I thought, why have Brad Richardson and Marcus Kruger on the same team? But John Chayka, always playing 4D chess, flips Marcus Kruger, signs Brad Richardson. Brad Richardson scores so many goals, and he scored 17 goals last year. Just a great veteran depth guy, a great penalty killer. Him and Michael Grabner are just one of the best penalty killers in the whole National Hockey League. So it's great to see him still stick around after these tumultuous 3 years. He's still on the team. And that says a lot of Brad Richardson. Here we go. Tobias Reeder. Oh, Tobias Reeder, what happened to you, boy? I think Tobias Reeder went to arbitration in the first month. In the first month of the youngest GM in NHL history. He gets an NHL team. Here we go. First month as a general manager. Boom. Tobias Reeder has the balls to be like, I'm not accepting what you're offering me. They go to a third-party mediator to get a 2-year contract. And John Chayka had enough of Reeder. I think Reeder played 1 season under John Chayka. And then the next season at the trade deadline was like, that's enough. Trade him to the LA Kings for Darcy Kemper, who was like top 5 goalies last year. So unbelievable. Another unbelievable trade. Another trade where John Chayka sells high and then to trade Tobias Rieder for the top 5 goalie last year and Darcy Kemper, who almost dragged the Coyotes to the playoffs last year. But Tobias Rieder, got traded to the LA Kings and then got picked up by the Edmonton Oilers to play on Connor McDavid's wing. Now what does Tobias Rieder do? Scores 0 goals. That's Tobias Rieder for you. I don't think he plays in the NHL anymore. So it's another one. Another casualty by John Chayka, who doesn't play in the NHL. Philip Samuelsson, I remember he was a highly touted prospect for the Coyotes and then amounted to nothing. This was a Don Maloney draft pick, and then John Chayka, not really sure what happened. I think John Chayka just never signed him and just let him walk, and he doesn't play in the NHL. John Scott, good old Canadian boy. John Scott played a season under John Chayka, and then this whole debacle of him getting traded because the fans voted for John Scott, meatbag, grinder, bench warmer. The fans voted him in to the All-Star game, and then the owner of the NHL, Gary Bettman, was like, we can't have a fourth-line fighting grinder bench warmer in the All-Star game. So I think Bettman kind of pressured John Chayka to trade him and bury him or do some weird stuff, and John Chayka caught a lot of flack for that. But at the end of the day, John Scott made it to the All-Star game. It was a great story for the NHL. It was wonderful to watch a fourth-line grinder make it to the All-Star game. And then I think Gary Bettman was like, that's enough for fan voting, and now there's no fan voting for the All-Star game. I think you only could vote in like the starting lineup, and then that's it. Jerry Sekash doesn't play in the NHL anymore. Eric Selleck doesn't play in the NHL anymore. Mike Smith, he was one of the Coyotes' best goalies ever. I mean, I loved Mike Smith. Great puck handler, good old Canadian boy, tall. He was a brick wall in 2012. Like, I mean a brick wall. I don't even know any other analogies to describe him in what he represented in 2012, but that playoff run to the conference finals, I mean, Mike Smith made his name just for that one playoff series, and he's still getting jobs. The Edmonton Oilers picked him up a month ago for a 1-year contract. We'll see how Mike Smith handles being on the Edmonton Oilers with that terrible defensive team. They got Dave Tippett, a former Coyote coach. A lot of former Coyotes on the Oilers. I don't know. That's not good. Mike Stone, brother of the other Stone, who I'm forgetting his name, Mark Stone. Mark and Michael Stone. Michael Stone, John Chayka didn't really think too highly of him, and so the Calgary Flames signed him. And then Stone did nothing, and then the Calgary Flames bought him out last week, and now Michael Stone doesn't have an NHL job. So many people without NHL jobs here. It's really fascinating. Here we go, Alex Tanguay. That was so funny when he was on the Coyotes. I mean, Alex Tanguay is like a guy in like the year from 2000 to like 2010 was a big name on the Colorado Avalanche, on the Calgary Flames. Alex Tanguay, what a great player he was. Fortunately, he retired, doesn't play hockey anymore, and John Chayka moved away from him. Christian Thomas, I think he was a young prospect, another Don Maloney draft pick, doesn't play in the NHL. Victor Tikhonov, doesn't play in the NHL. Jared Tenorti, who got busted for taking drugs, not in the NHL. Nicholas Trutley, I remember this prospect goalie, by another Don Maloney draft pick. John Chayka walks away from him. Antoine Vermette, another household Coyotes name, one of the best face-off guys the team has ever seen. Him and Boyd Gordon, boy, just a great combo. Happy to see him win the cup with the Chicago Blackhawks. You know, John Chayka traded Vermette. He traded Vermette for a first-round pick to the Chicago Blackhawks and then went on to win the cup. That draft pick is Nick Merkley, who's still in the Coyotes system and might actually make the jump to the Coyotes this upcoming season. I'm anticipating Nick Merkley, light a fire under Connor Garland's behind and push for a spot. So Nick Merkley is the outcome of trading Antoine Vermette for a first-round pick. And then, Vermette was traded for a first-round pick to Chicago and then re-signed back with the Coyotes after he won the Cup. That was so funny. That was amazing how Vermette did that. So the Coyotes just rented Vermette out to Chicago for Nick Merkley, who's still in the Coyotes organization and who's a good young forward who might make a name for himself in 2 months. That's strange. That's really funny. But there's one blemish with Vermette, and I'll never let John Chayka live this down. This is one of his few mistakes, which I hold John Chayka to. He bought out Antoine Vermette. I think the first season John Chayka took control of this team. And the reason why he bought out Vermette was because he was anticipating Dylan Strome to step up into the lineup and replace Antoine Vermette. And we know what happened to Dylan Strome. I mean, never really made a name for himself on the Coyotes. Got traded last November for Nick Schmaltz. And then Dylan Strome lights it up for Chicago. So that's how it goes. That's a Coyotes history in a nutshell. The last player, Joe Vitale, broke his face and never played hockey again while wearing an Arizona Coyote uniform. Never forget Joe Vitale. Broke his skull in a fight. So that's it. This is the roster. I mean, that's a bad roster to inherit as a youngest GM in NHL history, and he made a lot of moves. Here's a visualization of all the players who left and when they left. This is from a Reddit user who's prominent in the Coyotes subreddit, so I want to give credit to him. His name's Frank. Don't know his last name. Don't know how to pronounce his Reddit username, but he's a very good contributor in the Coyotes subreddit and the Coyotes Discord. So I want to give props for Frank. Here we go. All green. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Max Domi played 2 seasons under John Chayka, and then got traded for Alex Galchenyuk, who then got traded for Phil Kessel. Shane Doan played 1 season under John Chayka, and then was retired. Anthony Duclair played 1.5 seasons for John Chayka, traded for Richard Panik, who played 1.5 seasons, then left in free agency. Martin Hanzal played half a season for John Chayka, got traded for a first-round pick to the Minnesota Wild, who then signed with the Dallas Stars, who then had a back life-ending injury and never played hockey again. Mikhail Bodker never played for John Chayka. Okay. So John Chayka inherited a team with Bodker. Actually, no, Bodker got sent out at the trade deadline a few months before John Chayka was hired. So, I mean, John Chayka was assistant GM, so he had some input in his trade. But yeah, Mikhail Bodker never played for John Chayka when he was GM. Antoine Vermette, same thing. Tobias Rieder played a season and a half for Chayka. Got traded for Darcy Kemper, the best goalie ever. Michael Stone played a season for John Chayka. Wasn't re-signed. Got signed by the Calgary Flames, who got bought out last week and doesn't play in the NHL. Brad Richardson, still on the team. All green. Here we go. Jordan Martinook played 2 seasons for John Chayka. Thought he was going to sign a contract, but John Chayka trades him for Marcus Kruger, who then gets flipped for Hinostroza and Jordan Osterley, so great trade there. Connor Murphy played a season for Chayka and then traded for Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Alex Tanguay never played under John Chayka. Kyle Chipchura never played for John Chayka. Big ol' Kevin Connaughton played 3 seasons with John Chayka and then was a casualty a month ago for Carl Soderberg. Klaus Stahlbeck, Nicholas Grossman, Steve Downey, Tikhonov, Elliott, Gordon, Jeffrey, Sakash, Cunningham, Lindback, Plotnikov, Grant, Samuelson, Selleck, Thomas, Tenorti, Trutley, and Vitale immediately sent away from the organization the moment John Chayka got hired. Louis Domingue played a season and a week for the Coyotes and then traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning, where he got to live out his hopes and gain a Stanley Cup, but was swept in the first round, so good for him. Mike Smith played 1 season for the Coyotes and then traded to the Calgary Flames. And then a couple days later, John Chayka acquires Antti Ranta and Derek Stepan to replace Mike Smith in the starting goaltender role. And Laurent Dauphin, the last one, who back and forth with the Coyotes. But unfortunately, in April, he'll probably never wear the Coyotes jersey ever again. So that's it. Hope this was a fun video. A lot of talking for me, but that's interesting. I hope you guys find this interesting as well. So many players that are not on the Coyotes team anymore in just 3 years. It just goes to show how life can come at you fast in 3 years. And 90% of these guys don't even have NHL jobs. So it just goes to show what kind of team John Chayka was thrown into, what he's done, and presently how this team is knocking on the playoffs. It's really, really magical. And just want to give the spotlight to John Chayka. Not many general managers get the spotlight. I'm trying to give him the spotlight. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support.